funny thing about life. From the time you were young, people told you the same story. If you want more, work harder. If you want success, double your effort. If you're struggling, push through with more hours, more sweat, more sacrifice. It sounds noble, doesn't it? It sounds fair. You imagine the world as a great scale, and if you keep piling your effort on one side, eventually it will outweigh all your troubles, and the balance will tip in your favor. You think that more effort must mean more progress, because that's how weight works, that's how crops grow, that's how fires burn. But life, as you've surely noticed, doesn't always obey the rules we were promised. There is a strange law at work in this world, the law of diminishing returns, the law of exhaustion, the law of misplaced effort. Call it whatever you like, but I call it a paradox because it looks like the opposite of what it should be. You try harder, and somehow you move slower. You spend more hours at your desk, yet your mind is dull. You push your body beyond its limit, and instead of strength, you find injury. You chase wealth with sleepless nights, and you end up sick, too weak to enjoy the very things you pursued. It is a cruel paradox, but also a merciful one. Cruel because it punishes the one who knows only how to push, who believes brute force is enough. Merciful because it whispers a deeper truth, that progress is not found in mere intensity, but in direction, in alignment, in wisdom. You can row harder, endlessly, blistering your hands and straining your back. But if the boat is pointed the wrong way, each stroke carries you further from the shore you seek. This is why I say to you, effort is not the same as progress. Movement is not the same as arrival. Struggle is not the same as growth. Look at nature. The seed does not break open because it worked harder than the stone. It grows because it found a crack where light and water could reach. The river does not carve the canyon because it forced itself to. It flowed with patience, with consistency, with time. In both, there is energy, yes, but there is also alignment with the greater order of things. Do you see the danger now? The world praises hard work. The crowd admires the one who rises early and sleeps late. But no one stops to ask, what is he working for? Where is he headed? Is the ladder leaning against the right wall? I have seen men destroy themselves with their own discipline. I have seen women burn their health for the sake of a paycheck, thinking it noble, while their children grew up without them. I have seen whole lives vanish in busyness, like smoke rising from a fire that never warmed the room. And yet we rarely question it, because questioning feels lazy. Questioning feels like betrayal. So we push harder, we carry heavier loads. We try to outrun the emptiness by adding more weight to our backs. But tell me, friend, have you ever tried walking on sand? You lift your feet with all your strength, but the ground gives way beneath you. Each step takes twice the effort of walking on stone, yet the distance is half. That is what life feels like when your effort is not guided. Harder work, less progress. greater struggle, smaller results. This is why wisdom matters more than willpower, not because effort is useless. No, effort is sacred. But effort without wisdom is wasted like pouring water into a broken jar. You may work until your hands bleed, but without understanding, without alignment, you will end up empty. Sometimes you need to pause. Sometimes you need to step back, breathe, and ask, what am I really moving toward? And is this the path that leads there? That pause may feel like weakness. It may look like idleness to others, but to the wise, it is strength. Because only in stillness can you see the current of the river. Only when you stop rowing blindly can you notice whether your boat is facing east or west. The paradox of hard work is not meant to discourage you. It is meant to free you from the prison of constant pushing, constant striving, constant burning of your own soul. It invites you into a deeper way where effort and direction walk hand in hand. In the old writings of the Tao, there is a lesson: do nothing, yet nothing is left undone. At first, it seems absurd. How can you do nothing and still complete everything? But it is not about laziness. It is about alignment. When your effort moves with the current, when your life flows with the natural order of things, progress comes not by strain, but by harmony. The tree does not force itself to grow. It simply reaches for the sun. So here is the thought I leave with you for now. Maybe the reason you feel stuck is not because you haven't worked hard enough, but because you've worked against the grain of your own life. Maybe what you need is not more fire, but better aim. And when you start to see that, when you start to ask the right questions, something shifts. The weight on your shoulders doesn't feel the same. The work in your hands doesn't drain you as before. Effort becomes lighter, progress becomes smoother, and suddenly you find yourself further along than all those years of grinding ever carried you. Sit with that thought. Let it trouble you. Let it awaken something in you. Because what if, just what if, you've been rowing with all your might in the wrong direction?
You know, one of the strangest illusions in life is busyness. We humans cling to it as if it were proof of our worth. We measure our days by how full they are, how tired we feel at night, how many tasks we crossed off the list. We say, "I worked so hard today," and hope that exhaustion will be accepted as evidence of progress. But tell me, does weariness always mean wisdom? Does a crowded schedule always mean a fruitful life? I have sat with men whose calendars were bursting, whose phones rang without end, whose hands never stopped moving. And yet, when silence finally caught up to them, they confessed something they rarely admitted out loud. Despite all the activity, they felt hollow inside. They had gained much, but they weren't sure what it was for. They had lost more, but they didn't know how or when it slipped away. That is the hidden cost of blind effort. You can give your days to work, and the world will applaud you. But applause does not heal fatigue. It does not mend broken relationships. It does not grant peace to a restless mind. Busyness is a mask. It hides our fear of standing still. It covers the dread of asking, "Am I living wisely? Am I walking the right road?" It is easier to keep running than to face those questions. But running without direction doesn't take you closer. It only makes you tired in a different place. There was an old saying, "Beware the barrenness of a busy life." Those words sting because they pierce through the pride we wrap around our exhaustion. We want to believe that if we are worn out, it must mean we are closer to the prize. But barrenness means emptiness, and it is possible, too possible, to spend your years working furiously and end up empty. Think of a man building a house. He works day and night, pouring concrete, lifting wood, hammering nails. His hands bleed, his back bends, and still he pushes on. But what if the land he builds on is not his? What if the foundation is cracked? What if the house is beautiful, but it is not the home he longed for? All his sweat cannot change the truth. He worked, yes, but he worked for the wrong thing. That is the danger of hard work without reflection. You may be building someone else's dream. You may be filling someone else's pockets. You may be walking diligently toward a destination you never wanted to reach. I do not say this to scorn work. Work is sacred. To shape something with your hands, to offer your strength, to give your time, these are holy acts, but only if they are guided by wisdom. Without wisdom, they are wasted sacrifices, laid on an altar that never blesses you in return. The Stoics spoke of this long ago. Marcus Aurelius, a man who bore the weight of an empire, wrote in his journal that life is short, and if you do not guard your mind, you will spend it scattered, busy with things that do not matter. He warned of the tragedy of being occupied with much, yet accomplishing little of true worth. And here is the heart of the paradox again. More effort, less progress. More strain, less peace. More movement, less meaning. Because progress is not measured by activity, it is measured by alignment. With your values, with your calling, with the quiet truth of your own heart. But how do you know if you are trapped in busyness? How do you know if your effort is empty? Listen closely, because life has a way of telling you. If you wake each day dreading the hours to come, if you work and yet feel no growth, if you achieve and yet feel no joy, these are signs. Signs that you are carrying bricks for a house that is not your own. Signs that you are pushing against the tide instead of moving with it. In Taoist thought, there is a lesson about water. Water does not strain itself, yet it wears down the stone. It does not compete, yet it overcomes. It moves with the path of least resistance, and in doing so, it shapes the earth itself. That is power without busyness. That is progress without strain. Contrast that with how we often live. We force, we resist, we fight the natural flow of our lives. We fill every gap with noise. We do not trust the stillness. We do not trust that sometimes less is more. And so we burn out, quietly, secretly. We wear smiles in public, but in the solitude of our rooms, we collapse. Our bodies ache, our minds churn, our spirits feel dry. The world says, keep pushing, but our souls whisper, stop, turn around, there is another way. Friend, I tell you this not as theory, but as one who has seen both sides. I have lived the years of endless striving. I have worked myself sick, believing that more hours meant more life, and I have sat in the silence that followed, when all my effort turned to dust in my hands. That silence taught me what no applause could. Effort is not the enemy, but misplaced effort is. Busyness is not evil, but empty busyness devours your years. The paradox of hard work is that it can become a trap, chaining you to movement without meaning, motion without arrival. So before you push harder, before you carry more, pause. Ask yourself, what am I truly working for? Whose voice am I obeying when I exhaust myself? What foundation am I building on? The answers may trouble you. They may unsettle the stories you have told yourself. But it is better to face the truth in time than to wake one day and realize the ladder you climbed so faithfully was leaning against the wrong wall. And so the paradox stands before you. You can give your life to effort and still miss the point. You can be busy, yet barren. And until you see it, until you pause long enough to notice, you may never know how far you have wandered. Sit with that thought tonight. Let the silence in. Let the weight of busyness show itself for what it is. And perhaps in that quiet, you will begin to see a path you could not see before.
There is a truth you will learn sooner or later. Effort is never free. It costs something. It takes from your body, from your mind, from your time. And if you are not careful, it will take from the people you love most. We like to imagine that hard work is a simple exchange. You give sweat, you get progress. But in reality, every ounce of effort carries a hidden price, and sometimes that price is greater than the reward. I once knew a man who believed in nothing but work. He rose before dawn, came home after dark, and thought of little else. His hands were strong, his eyes sharp, his reputation respectable. People called him reliable, dedicated, tireless. But his children grew up without him. His wife slept alone most nights. And when his hair turned gray, he looked around and found that he had built a career, yes, but he had lost a family. This is not a rare story. It is the quiet tragedy of many. They do not fall to laziness. They fall to excess. They give their best to the world and leave their scraps for the ones who matter most. They think they are providing, when in truth they are only exchanging life for things that cannot love them back. That is the cruel side of the paradox of hard work. More effort, less progress, not just in wealth, but in relationships, in health, in peace. You chase one form of success and another part of your life collapses. You water one plant in the garden and the rest withers. You may tell yourself, this is temporary, I'll slow down later. But later is a lie the world keeps whispering. Later rarely comes, and when it does, you may find the time gone, the people gone, the strength gone. In the old Buddhist teachings, there is a warning about attachment, the clinging to something so tightly that it blinds you to the rest of life. Hard work can become such an attachment. You cling to it for safety, for identity, for worth. And in clinging, you lose sight of balance. You forget that effort, too, must be held with open hands. Think of a bow drawn too tight. At first, it holds the arrow firm, ready to fly.
But hold it long enough, and the wood begins to strain. The string begins to fray, and before long it snaps. What once was strength becomes weakness. What once was power becomes ruin. That is what happens when effort becomes obsession. Your body frays, your spirit cracks, your relationships strain under the weight, and one day, without warning, you find yourself broken, unable to carry the very load you once prided yourself on. The Tao speaks of balance, the yin and the yang, the harmony of opposites, work and rest, effort and ease, action and stillness. Ignore this balance, and the very thing you chase begins to escape you. A field plowed without pause becomes barren. A flame fed without care consumes the house. So it is with life. You may believe you are chasing success, but if your effort leaves you hollow, you are not succeeding. You are merely burning. And the fire, if left unchecked, will take everything. Sometimes progress looks like less, not more. Sometimes wisdom means laying down the load, even when the world shouts at you to pick it up again. Sometimes the bravest act is to rest, to listen, to say no, not because you are weak, but because you understand the cost of saying yes to everything. Do you feel it in your own life? The tension, the fatigue that no sleep seems to heal, the moments with loved ones that slip through your fingers while your mind is elsewhere, the quiet sense that despite all your effort, you are drifting further from yourself. This is the hidden toll of blind striving. It does not only rob your progress, it robs your presence. And presence, my friend, is life itself. You cannot love without presence. You cannot savor without presence. You cannot live without presence. So ask yourself gently, what has your effort cost you? Has it cost your health, leaving you always tired, always aching? Has it cost your peace, keeping your mind restless, unable to sit still in silence? Has it cost your relationships, leaving the people you love waiting for a version of you that never arrives? If the answer is yes, then you are paying too high a price. There is no shame in realizing this. In fact, it may be the beginning of wisdom. For wisdom is not about pushing harder. It is about seeing clearly. And once you see clearly, you can choose differently. You can choose to align your effort with what truly matters. You can choose to say no to what drains you, so you can say yes to what nourishes you. You can choose to rest, to breathe, to trust that sometimes less is enough. The world may not understand. It may call you lazy, unambitious, uncommitted. Let it. Only you know the weight of your own soul. Only you know what truly matters. And when you live aligned with that, the paradox begins to dissolve. Effort no longer steals from you. It serves you. It feeds you instead of draining you. But that begins with the courage to question, to pause, to face the truth of what your hard work has truly given you and what it has quietly taken away. So tonight, sit with this thought. Effort is not free. It always costs something. And if the cost is greater than the reward, no matter how noble the effort looks, it is not worth it. The question is not simply, am I working hard? The question is, what am I paying with my life, and is it worth
the price.
If effort alone cannot guarantee progress, then where does progress come from? That is the question we must sit with now. Because if you stop at the paradox, you may feel only despair. You may think, then what is the point? If hard work can betray me, what else is there? But listen carefully. The paradox does not mock you. It does not tell you to give up. It whispers that there is another way, a quieter way, a way not of endless striving, but of alignment. Progress is not born from force. It is born from clarity. It is born from placing your effort where it belongs. The same sun that burns a desert also gives life to a garden. The difference is not in the sun, it is in what receives it. So it is with you. Your energy is like sunlight. If you scatter it across barren ground, you will feel only exhaustion. But if you direct it toward fertile soil, life will grow almost without asking. That is why reflection matters more than strain. 1 hour of clear thought can save you from years of wasted labor. One decision made with wisdom can outweigh 100 days of frantic activity. The Stoics knew this. They said that life is short, and the wise man does not waste it on things beyond his control. He chooses carefully where to place his effort because he knows each day spent is a day gone forever. Think of water once more. A stream that spills in every direction becomes a swamp. But channel that same water, focus it, and it becomes a river strong enough to carry ships. Focus, not force. Direction, not strain. But clarity is difficult in a noisy world. The voices around you will tell you to do more, push more, achieve more. They will tell you that rest is laziness, that silence is wasted time, that stillness is death. And if you believe them, you will scatter yourself, pouring your effort into every demand until nothing remains. That is why stillness is not weakness. Stillness is strength, because only in stillness can you hear your own heart. Only in stillness can you see which path is truly yours. The Tao speaks of Wu Wei, effortless action, action in harmony with the way of things. It does not mean idleness. It means living so aligned with your path that your effort flows like water, natural, unforced. You know this feeling, though perhaps you rarely name it. Think of the times when your work did not feel like labor, when you lost track of hours because you were absorbed, alive, present. That is alignment. That is effort serving you, not draining you. So the task is not to abandon effort, but to guide it, to put it where it belongs, to learn the art of saying no, not just to others, but to your own restless drive to do everything at once. There is an old parable of a man who sharpened his axe every morning but never cut down a single tree. He believed that one more stroke of the whetstone would make him ready. He died with the sharpest axe, but no firewood for his family. That is misdirected effort, preparation without purpose, motion without meaning. And there is another parable, its mirror. A man who swung his dull axe from dawn to dusk, proud of his strength, proud of his calloused hands. But his pile of wood grew slowly, painfully, and at the end of each day he was too tired to notice the forest around him. He too died empty-handed. That is blind effort, strain without reflection. Do you see? The wise man is neither. He sharpens, yes, but then he cuts.
He works, yes, but he also rests. He balances both, guided by clarity. His fire burns steady, his family is warm, and his soul is at peace. So where do you begin? Begin not with doing, but with seeing. Sit with yourself and ask, what is truly mine to do? What brings life when I give myself to it? What feels aligned with the grain of my soul instead of against it? The answers will not always be loud. They may come as whispers, as subtle nudges, as a quiet peace when you think of one path and unease when you think of another. But if you trust them, if you honor them, your effort will no longer feel like a burden. It will feel like flow. And here is the beauty. When you align effort with clarity, progress no longer requires endless force. You will still work, yes. You will still sweat, yes. But it will not drain you in the same way. It will feed you even as it tires you. You will lay your head down at night not only exhausted, but fulfilled. That is the secret hidden inside the paradox. Hard work is not the enemy. Misplaced hard work is. When your effort serves your truth, progress comes, not always quickly, not always loudly, but surely, like the dawn. So pause, my friend. Look at your life as it is. Where are you scattering your sunlight? Where are you pouring your water into the sand? Where are you holding the bow too tight, forcing what should flow? And where, if you were honest, does your heart long to give itself? Where does effort feel alive, not crushing? Where does progress feel natural, not forced? Begin there. Do not worry if the world does not understand. Do not worry if your path looks different, smaller, quieter. True progress is not measured by the crowd. It is measured by the peace within you, by the fruit your life bears in time. And that fruit, like all fruit, grows slowly. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be forced. It comes from patience, from tending, from trust. So let your hard work become like that, patient, directed, alive, no longer a burden, but a river carrying you forward. Sit with that image tonight, not the frantic thrashing of oars in the wrong direction, but the quiet, steady current of a river carrying you, guiding you, because at last you have chosen to flow with it.
Now, let us step back and consider something most people rarely think about: the point of work itself. Why do we work so hard? Why do we chase deadlines, exhaust ourselves with schedules, and push our bodies and minds to the edge? For many, the answer seems obvious. We work to survive, to pay the bills, to feed our families, to keep a roof over our heads. And of course, there is truth in that. But survival alone has never been the ultimate aim of life. Human beings are not meant to merely grind until the end. We are meant to build, to grow, to discover, and to experience a richness of life that goes beyond constant toil. This is where the paradox of hard work reaches its deepest layer. The harder you chase work as the solution to everything, the less room you leave for life itself. You begin to think the purpose of life is effort, when in truth, effort is meant to serve life. Let me give you an image. Imagine a man digging a well. He is desperate for water, so he digs with all his strength from sunrise to sunset. But he does not pause to think about where water actually lies. He does not study the land, ask the locals, or consider the flow of underground streams. He believes that sheer force of digging will eventually reward him, but after weeks of sweat and blistered hands, he finds nothing but dry soil. Another man, with less strength but more wisdom, studies the ground. He notices where the grass grows greener, where the earth feels damp. He digs fewer hours with less energy wasted, and within days he strikes water. That is the paradox. Hard work without wisdom often leads to emptiness, while mindful, purposeful work, though less frantic, creates results that sustain life. I have watched people spend decades in the trap of blind effort. They say things like, "I'll work harder, I'll add more hours, I'll sacrifice more sleep, and surely that will get me ahead." But the years pass, and they are no closer to freedom. Their bodies weaken, their health falters, their relationships dry up like the soil of that man's empty well. And yet they cling to the belief that effort itself is the cure. Here is the truth most avoid. Working harder is not always the answer. Often it is working differently, working with clarity, working with purpose, working with the courage to step back and ask, "Is this the right well I'm digging?" Freedom does not come from endless exertion. It comes from balance. The balance of effort and reflection, of action and stillness, of labor and creativity. Hard work has its place, but it is not the whole picture. Wealth, growth, and a meaningful life are built when hard work serves the larger vision, not when it consumes it. So I ask you now, are you working hard, or are you working wisely? Are you simply exhausting yourself, or are you directing your energy towards something that truly matters? Because the paradox is not meant to discourage you. It is meant to awaken you, to remind you that your life is too precious to be spent in circles of effort without progress. That true success comes not from burning out, but from aligning your work with your wisdom. And once you understand this, you no longer fear slowing down. You no longer feel guilty for resting. You realize that rest is not laziness, but fuel. Reflection is not wasting time, but sharpening the blade. Balance is not weakness, but strength. The paradox of hard work dissolves when you understand this simple truth. Life is not a race of endless effort. It is a journey of meaningful progress. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is not to push harder, but to pause, to think, and to choose differently. So, my friend, take a breath. Step back. Look at the well you are digging. Ask yourself, is this leading me to water, or am I exhausting myself in dry soil? Your answer will decide not just how hard you work, but whether your work truly leads you forward.
My friend, we've now walked a long way together on this path of understanding. You've seen how blind effort can turn into a cage, how exhaustion can disguise itself as progress, and how the myth of hard work often hides the truth of leverage. But now, I want to guide you further, towards something beyond effort. Leverage. It is the quiet force that multiplies your time, your skills, and your results without demanding more sweat from your brow. The wealthy have always known it. They don't run faster on the wheel. They step off it and build the machine that turns on its own. Think of a lever and a stone. One man pushes the boulder with his bare hands, straining until his back breaks. Another uses a simple lever and moves the same rock with far less energy. Did the second man work harder? No, he worked wiser. He understood that progress is not always about the amount of effort, but about the placement of effort. So let me ask you, where in your life are you still pushing the stone with your bare hands? Where are you exhausting yourself when a shift in approach could release you from that endless strain? Leverage comes in many forms. It may be knowledge, one idea that saves you years of wasted struggle. It may be systems, structures that carry the weight so you don't have to. It may be people, partners, teams, and mentors who expand your reach far beyond what you could ever do alone. And often it is capital, money placed wisely so that it works while you rest. Notice something. All of these require thought, patience, and vision. They don't look as dramatic as long hours and visible sweat. They are quieter. They are slower to build, but once in motion, they do not stop when you are tired. This is why many hard-working men stay poor, while others who seem to work less rise to great wealth. It is not that life is unfair. It is that the game is not only about effort. The rules are different for those who understand leverage. And here is the final paradox. True freedom begins when you stop believing that your worth is tied only to your labor. You are not a machine. You are a mind, a creator, a designer of systems and opportunities. When you embrace leverage, you escape the trap of endless effort and begin to live in alignment with wisdom. So, my friend, the next time you find yourself saying, "I just need to work harder," pause. Ask instead, "How can I work smarter? How can I build something that multiplies beyond me?" That question, simple as it sounds, may open the door that years of labor never could. Because in the end, wealth, growth, and progress belong not to the exhausted, but to the enlightened.
So, let us redefine what it means to work hard. Hard work is not measured by sweat alone, but by the alignment between your effort and your direction. A person digging in the wrong place will never strike water, no matter how many blisters they earn. But the one who studies the land, understands the soil, and then digs in the right spot, he may find a well with far less effort. This is the paradox. Sometimes the greatest hard work you can do is to pause, reflect, and choose wisely. To stop running blindly and instead walk steadily toward the right mountain. The world may praise hustle and endless grind, but you must ask yourself, does my labor create fruit or only exhaustion? Does my effort bring me closer to freedom or chain me to busyness? Remember this, true hard work is not about doing more. It is about doing what matters most. And here lies the quiet truth. When your effort is guided by wisdom, every step becomes lighter, every action more powerful. You will begin to see that progress is not the reward of endless toil, but the gift of working hard on the right things.
My friend, now the question comes back to you. What does your hard work serve? If you find yourself weary, always busy but rarely fulfilled, perhaps it is not your strength that is lacking, but your direction. Perhaps the soil you are tilling can never bear the fruit you desire, no matter how much sweat you pour into it. Do not be afraid to stop and reconsider. Do not be afraid to rest, to think, to ask yourself whether your effort builds a future or simply maintains a cycle. The bravest workers are not those who push endlessly, but those who pause long enough to choose the right path. Remember, hard work is sacred when it flows toward purpose. But without wisdom, effort becomes a prison, chaining you to a life of exhaustion and little progress. So, I leave you with this challenge. Don't just work hard, work rightly. Begin today. Step back. Ask yourself, where is my effort leading me? Am I chasing motion or creating meaning? Do I want to be remembered for my labor or for the life my labor allowed me to build? Choose wisely, for when wisdom guides effort, progress is no longer a struggle. It becomes inevitable.